Welcome to Mobile Home Friend YouTube channel, your go-to resource for everything manufactured housing.
Welcome to another deep dive from Mobile Home Friend. Today we are looking at mobile home ceiling sagging based on our latest research at mobilehomefriend.com. Is your ceiling about to collapse? Look, it's a terrifying thought, right? If you've ever just sat on your couch, staring up at a bulging, sagging vinyl panel right in the middle of your living room, well, you know it looks exactly like a giant indoor water balloon. And absolutely nobody wants to see that pop. But hey, don't panic just yet. Here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll systematically walk through why your ceiling sags. Then, we'll compare cosmetic versus structural dangers, go over the warning signs, walk through temporary and permanent fixes, and finally, break down the exact 2026 repair costs to help ease some of that home repair anxiety. All right, Section 1. Why your ceiling sags. Let's find out why gravity is suddenly acting like a harsh mistress on your roof. So our very first culprit is age. If your home was built back in the 1970s, 80s, or 90s, the factory likely glued those ceiling panels directly to the roof trusses using heavy construction adhesives like polyurethane or neoprene. Well, imagine 20 to 40 years of baking in extreme summer attic heat and then freezing every winter. That glue goes through severe thermal degradation. It literally dries out, crystallizes, and just lets go of the panels. But what's truly shocking is this massive number, 8 times 8. If you get a roof leak, that loose fill or batted fiberglass insulation resting right above your ceiling acts exactly like a giant sponge. It can absorb up to 8 times its dry weight in water before you even see a single drip. Suddenly, that fluffy, light insulation is exerting over 4 pounds per square foot of dead load, which just completely overpowers the fasteners holding your ceiling up. That leads us directly to this incredibly crucial point. A sagging ceiling is almost always born on the roof. Fixing the interior without sealing the exterior is completely useless. You absolutely have to track down those roof leaks or overhead plumbing failures first, because, as we noted on the site, water is the single greatest enemy of a mobile home ceiling. Moving on to Section 2, Cosmetic versus Structural Danger. It's time to assess the danger and diagnose your house like a patient to figure out if you're dealing with a simple annoyance or a full-blown emergency.
When we compare the two side by side, cosmetic issues are mostly just harmless aging symptoms. You know, the factory glue dried out, maybe some nails popped, but the wood up there is totally dry. Your panel just droops a little. No big deal. But on the flip side, we have life-threatening structural failures. If your sag is caused by water retention or rotted roof trusses, those saturated panels can tear away with zero warning, literally dropping hundreds of pounds of wet insulation, dry wire, and wiring right onto your living room floor.
Now, for the DIY nerds tuning into this explainer, let's break down the actual science of why this structural damage is so permanent. It's a process called hygroscopic expansion. See, when water pools on the lower chord of a wooden roof truss, the wood cells absorb that moisture and swell up. Under the constant weight of the roof above, this wet lumber experiences what's called mechanical creep. It permanently bends. It loses its mechanical strength, meaning that even after the wood fully dries out, that structural sag is locked into the framing forever. But hey, water isn't the only structural danger out there. Sometimes a sagging ceiling, especially if it's right down the middle of a double wide, is actually caused by the ground beneath you. If the concrete piers under your home sink unevenly, it creates differential foundation settlement. This twisting force, or structural torsion, physically pulls the steel chassis and actually splits the ceiling panels apart at the marriage line. If you want the full technical breakdown, check the post on mobilehomefriend.com.
All right, Section 3. Warning signs and inspection. Let's learn how to read the symptoms before disaster strikes.
What's really fascinating here is how easily you can spot a failing ceiling. Think of this as your crucial checklist of red flags. Are those sagging areas expanding? Do you see new visible cracks or split batten strips along the seams? Next time you get high winds, listen closely. Do you hear popping or grinding noises? Because that is the exact sound of structural wood fasteners rubbing against loose metal staples. Also, check your interior doors and windows. If they start binding or sticking out of nowhere, that indicates the heavy roof load is actively crushing the interior walls below it. And obviously, musty odors and big brown water stains are giant flashing warning signs. Okay, let's get right into the treatment protocol in Section 4, temporary and permanent fixes. Because slapping a cosmetic Band-Aid on a broken roof truss is just a terrible idea. If you're dealing with an active water situation, Here is your immediate triage protocol to safely stabilize that wet ceiling. Step 1. Isolate the electrical hazards. Shut off the main breaker for that room's lights and fans immediately. Step 2. Take a small drill bit or a finishing nail and puncture a targeted relief hole directly in the center of the sag to drain all that trapped water into a bucket. Step 3. Brace the panel flat using an adjustable support pole and a wide block of wood. But please, hear me clearly on this. Strictly avoid driving screws directly into wet, mushy panels. The screw heads will instantly slice right through that wet gypsum, making the hole bigger and the panel completely useless.
Now, if your panels are completely dry and just suffering from that old failed factory adhesive we talked about earlier, here's your permanent fix. You'll want to locate the center of the wooden roof truss and use 1.5-inch coarse thread screws paired with white plastic sealing buttons, which are sometimes called rosettes. You basically drive these in every 6 inches. The wide plastic button increases the surface area, which stops the screw head from pulling through that thin gypsum board. You can find a list of the exact recommended tools on the Mobile Home Friend website.
So, the crucial point we all really want to know is right here in Section 5, the 2026 repair costs. Let's talk about budgeting your fix.
Take a second to screenshot this highly valuable data table so you can cleanly compare DIY material costs against professional contractor rates. Tackling a dry, basic panel refastening yourself is actually very affordable. It's often just the cost of a screw gun and a panel lift rental, coming in around $110. But if you have rotted framing that requires structural truss sistering, or you need to hire a pro to fully install and seam brand new ceiling panels, you're looking at several hundred to well over $1,000 per room.
Which brings us to our final question to leave you with. Will you simply conceal the problem with a quick cosmetic patch, or will you execute a true structural cure to protect your home for the long haul? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks for watching. For more guides and the full article on this topic, head over to mobilehomefriends.com. Don't forget to check the links in the description below.
Thanks for watching. For more technical guides on this topic, click the link to see the in-depth article over at mobilehomefriend.com. There are many more informational dives into manufactured home topics to investigate and keep your project moving forward.